I'm Nathan, just your average late 30s salary man. Work's going well, and while there are busy days, I'm well compensated. My hobbies are driving and touring, and I'm always out doing this on my days off. I figure it's a cheap hobby since the only money I spend is on gas. Plus, I'm single with no girlfriend, so the money just keeps piling up. I had girlfriends in high school and college, but after starting work, I got absorbed in my job and hobbies. I thought I was living a fulfilling life even without a girlfriend. But before I knew it, I was being invited to weddings every few months and realized everyone around me was getting married. Along with that, the number of friends I could hang out with decreased, and I started to worry that I'd end up living a lonely life. Being alone forever is just too sad. The only reason I could enjoy doing this, and that by myself, was because I thought I could always meet up with someone if I asked. Thinking about it, at this rate I'm on a fast track to dying alone. If something happened and I collapsed, no one would even notice. I hate that idea. I may not be ready to get married right away, but I at least want a girlfriend. For the first time in my late 30s, I'm feeling the pressure and anxiety. The consequences of living selfishly until now are catching up to me. Like I said, I don't have a girlfriend, and my friends are all married, so there's hardly anyone for me to socialize with. But there is one saving grace for me, and that's my relationship with my neighbors. I know it's weird to say this about myself, but I've built a pretty good relationship with them. I even have kind neighbors who worry about my health as a single person and bring me side dishes. It's all because I've lived in the same house since I was a kid. This used to be my family home, and now I live here alone. Up until about 10 years ago, my mom lived with me too. I grew up in a single mother household. I'm sure there were things my mom didn't want to talk about, reasons why she was single. She never did tell me, right up to the end. Every single day, my mom worked multiple jobs, desperate to provide for me. Even as a child, I tried my best to find things I could do to help her out. But there's only so much a child can do, you know. In the end, just as I was about to make it on my own, the years of overwork caught up to my mom and she was hospitalized. Despite treatment, she never made it back home and passed away in the hospital. It happened right when I got a job and thought I could finally repay her. I cling to this house, the only inheritance she left me, without ever being able to do anything for her. For a while, I holed up in this house, too grief-stricken to even go to work. It was my neighbors, who have known me since I was young, who supported me then. As a remnant of that, they still worry about me and share food with me to this day. They all think of me as family, and I'm truly grateful. They're the only people I can regularly interact with now that I hardly socialize anymore. One day, I ran into my neighbor Mrs. White's at the garbage dump. She had a troubled look on her face. Is something wrong? I called out to her.
Well, you see, lately there's been this really persistent insurance lady coming around here. No matter how many times I turn her way, she comes back a few days later. I'm at my wit's end.
What? Someone like that? This was the first I'd heard of it. But that made sense, since I'm at work during the day and always going out somewhere on my days off. According to the neighbors, when she comes, she won't leave for dozens of minutes. The residents are mostly elderly, so they're hesitant to make a big deal out of it and call the police. But apparently everyone in the area is fed up with it, furrowing their brows and lamenting how troublesome it is.
What should I do? I dread the thought of her coming again. I guess I'll have to pretend I'm not home. But I need to go shopping too.
That is a problem, isn't it?
Well, I'll just have to deal with her somehow.
I see.
Yep. Well, see you later. I'll bring over some side dishes next time I have extra.
With that, she left. I feel indebted to my neighbors, and I want to cherish them as much as they care about me. Seeing them being bothered like this, I can't stand it. I went home and thought about it for a bit. The thing is, I have no intention of moving out of this house filled with memories of my mom. For now, I plan to stay in this town until the end of my days. On top of that, I'm indebted to my neighbors on a regular basis, so I decided this is where I'd step up and help out. I'll drive away that notorious insurance lady and give her a piece of my mind so she never comes near this town again. Now, in order to chase her off, I first need to be solicited for insurance by her myself. I decided to stop going out on my days off and lie in wait for the insurance lady's visit. And so, on the third day of waiting, my intercom rang out. I checked the monitor with a pounding heart, and sure enough, it was the rumored insurance lady. All right, bring it on, I thought as I swung the door open with gusto. Yes, who is it? Huh. I was surprised when I saw her face. The monitor quality wasn't very good, so I couldn't see clearly before. But the insurance lady standing right in front of me was totally my type.
Hello, is now a good time? I'm here for this. My name is Ivy Williams.
From what the neighbors told me, I had been imagining a pushy middle-aged lady with a perm. But instead, a beautiful woman who looked to be around my age had shown up. The shock took some of the wind out of my sails, but I had stayed home and waited for this day. I had to give it to her straight, for the sake of my future and my neighbors. Stealing my resolve, I cut her off. Look, I don't need any insurance.
What? Oh, but with our insurance, if anything happens, your family can have peace of mind.
Family? Mind your own business. I told you no, so please leave. Having no family other than my late mother, her words irritated me a bit. I hear you've been persistently soliciting around here.
Huh?
Ivy's face fell even further. It was clear as day she was disappointed to be rejected again. Everyone's fed up with it. Could you stop this kind of soliciting in this area?
But if you just hear me out to the end, you might change your mind. Ivy herself looked completely intimidated, or rather deflated, but despite her demeanor, she wouldn't back down an inch. No, I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? I'm telling you the people around here don't need it. Why are you being so persistent? To be frank, it's a nuisance. As I kept trying to turn her way, Ivy pursed her lips. She looked on the verge of tears, but she wouldn't leave and kept trying to continue her pitch in a trembling voice. Honestly, the situation was so bizarre that even I, who had heard about it beforehand, was taken aback. But I couldn't dwell on that. Because at this rate, forget getting her to stop her persistent soliciting. It looked like it would be hard to even get her to go home. I fought for a bit and then decided to say something that would make her never want to come near this town again. Honestly, it wasn't my style, and one wrong move could make me a criminal. But I had no choice. Fine.
Ivy's face brightened up, making my heart ache a little. I'll consider it if you give me your panties. She fell silent and hung her head sadly. And so, silence flowed between us. After looking like she was thinking for a bit, she turned on her heel. Seeing her resigned face right before she turned her back on me, I started to wonder if this was really the right move. But in any case, I had succeeded in driving her off. She probably wouldn't want to see a guy who says stuff like that ever again, and she shouldn't show up in this town anymore. A few days later, during a neighborhood cleanup, the neighbor from the other day came running up to me.
Hey, did you do something, Nathan? That insurance lady hasn't shown up anywhere since I talked to you.
Oh, yeah, something like that. I told her to never come to this town again.
I knew it. You're a lifesaver. Now I can relax. Thanks.
Oh, it was nothing. I was relieved to hear that from Mrs. White's, but I still couldn't help but worry. The way she looked as she left my house. Wasn't she taking it a bit too hard? The problem should have been solved, but I just couldn't feel satisfied and ended up spending my days brooding. But then, a few more days later, she showed up at my house again.
I'm very sorry about the other day. I'm Ivy Williams from Sun Insurance.
Seeing her on the monitor, I nearly fell over. She's still coming even after I said that to her. What kind of mental fortitude does she have? Wondering what in the world I'd have to say to get her to stop coming, I opened the door for the time being. Cheese, you really are Persis. What is this? She silently held out a certain item to me. Neatly wrapped in clear plastic was used underwear. I mean, sure, I said it, didn't I? I said I'd consider it if she gave me her panties. But who the heck would actually take that seriously? Well, apparently she would. I was pretty darn confused. But she was surprisingly calm, muttering while keeping her head down.
Sorry it's a bit dirty. I brought the cleanest pair I had. You'll agree to the contract with this, right?
Well, I had been worried because her behavior seemed off, but I never imagined she'd show up in front of me again like this. I was at a loss, but I tried to calm down and steady my breathing. Then I noticed something strange. The underwear she was holding out was clearly well worn even at a glance. The lace was torn, faded from overwashing, and the elastic was stretched out. And this was her cleanest pair. I hurriedly averted my eyes from the underwear. Even if I wasn't looking within pure farts, staring at panties is just awkward. Pulling myself together, I explained to her from the beginning that it was just a joke to get rid of her, and I never actually wanted her to bring them. Then she started crying while clutching the panties.
So you never intended to sign the contract in the first place?
Well, that's what it comes down to. Considering her feelings, I could understand wanting to cry. It must have taken a lot of agonizing and courage to actually bring them. I looked at her with pity. That's when I first noticed she had terrible dark circles under her eyes. Last time I was so desperate to turn her away that I didn't notice at all. Looking closer, her cheeks seemed sunken too. No matter how you look at it, she doesn't seem healthy. Her own fixation on the contract is also extraordinary. Something's definitely off here. I looked up to ask her about her circumstances, and her face was beach red.
Heck.
She was sobbing and hiccuping. Her cries echoed through the quiet residential area. Hey, wait, this makes it seem like I made her cry. I mean, it probably is my fault she's crying, but still. Not knowing what to do, I decided to pull her into my house for the time being. In hindsight, this was a pretty bad move, but I was half panicking at the time too. So, why were you so persistent? Is there some reason? I figured I'd try to hear her out, but she was crying too hard to talk. Sighing, I started talking without waiting for a reply from her. I wanted her to understand my side of things too. I prepared some tea and snacks and offered them to her. This tea, the guy next door gave it to me. Tea's his hobby, and sometimes he shares some crazy teas with me. These snacks are from the lady living in the house across the street. She's always looking out for me since I'm a single guy. She's a real nice person. I owe a lot to this town. She stayed silent, but I continued. It's full of kind people, which is why I love this town and its residents. So when I heard they were having trouble with your soliciting, I decided to chase you off. But I guess, just like I had my circumstances, you had some extraordinary circumstances too, huh? I asked quietly. She had calmed down at some point.
I have a little daughter, but her father, my husband, died in an accident right after she was born.
I gulped at her heavy words as she began to speak. Her circumstances were like this. Her parents were good-for-nothing people who apparently up and left when she was a student, and she lost contact with them. But spring finally came for her, who had somehow managed to keep going. That's right, meeting her husband. Blessed with a child too, she was filled with hope for the future during the peak of her life when she could finally lead a happy life. Before her daughter's first birthday, her husband passed away in an accident, sending her life plummeting like a roller coaster. With no parents and no contact with relatives, she had no time to wallow in grief as she raised her daughter alone. She immediately got a job at a local insurance company where she works now, but it was mostly a boys' club. Full of guys with outdated ideas, they used her sales performance as an excuse for all sorts of sexual harassment and power harassment. One moment they'd harshly berate her for lackluster results, the next they'd offer to teach her the ropes while inviting her to shady places. As if things weren't hard enough already, when she'd flee from the company to visit male clients, they'd say if she wanted them to sign a contract, she'd have to go out with them, or if she went to a hotel with them, they'd sign the contract there. No matter where she went, it was always stuff like that. On top of that, they'd go on about her sales performance while barely paying her a decent wage. She wanted to look for a new job, but the business attire she was wearing was her only decent outfit. Everything else was in tatters. Saving up for her daughter's daycare costs and future school expenses was all she could manage. Naturally, that meant she didn't have the money to buy a suit for interviews either. To make matters worse, a loan she took out a year ago due to financial hardship was making her current life even more difficult.
No matter how much I want to quit, this is the only place I can work.
A single tear quietly rolled down her cheek as she took a sip of tea and stood up.
The tea was delicious. I'm sorry for troubling you. It's time for me to pick up my daughter, so.
With just those sad words, she left. I couldn't say anything. I just accepted her business card and watched her back as she walked away. After she left, I thought about it for a bit. Her situation was more serious than I had imagined. No wonder she didn't want to go back to work, even with tears in her eyes. If she could just boost her sales performance, her life would get easier. Maybe the guys at her company would stop looking down on her too. If that's the case, maybe if I signed an insurance contract, it would help her out a tiny bit. but that's just a temporary fix. She'd still have to get contracts from people besides me, and she's already struggling so much now. I don't think it would be that easy. So what should I do? In the first place, what kind of money does she need? First, there's food, rent, utilities. Rent is pretty huge, and unlike utilities, you can reduce it by being frugal. Then there's probably a ton of other necessary expenses I can't even imagine, like her daughter's daycare fees and paying back her loan. Well, she said it wasn't a very large amount, but as I thought that far, a certain idea crossed my mind. But would she go for this proposal? On my next day off, I called the phone number on her business card. Hello, I wanted to talk to you about the insurance. She probably thought I was going to sign a contract. She came to my place looking happy, not sure if it will work out. I opened my mouth, my heart pounding. I have a proposal. Maybe she was remembering her previous creepy clients, but the color drained from her face and she went pale. She probably thought I was going to say something inappropriate. Realizing my wording was lacking, I hurriedly explained. Sorry. Don't get so tense. I'll be blunt. How about moving in with me?
Move in?
Surprised by words completely different from what she expected, her voice cracked. If it's okay with you, Ivy, how about moving in here with your daughter? After hearing your story the other day, I couldn't just leave you be. If you think of it like a room share or share house, I'll cover the money you need for living expenses. You won't need to pay rent or anything. So do you think you could handle just paying back your loan on your own? It's gotta be tough having this sprung on you so suddenly. But I'm serious. I want you to really consider it. Luckily, I have extra rooms. In the first place, I'm not home during the day because of work. I was always going out on my days off anyway. If I scare you, I'll stay out even on my days off.
But I couldn't possibly. And these conditions are so good I want to jump on them right away. If you don't mind me asking, why are you going so far for me? I'm sorry, but it's that concern that makes me feel scared instead.
When you were trying to sell me insurance, you said that even if something happened, this would give my family peace of mind. That's what you said, right? She nodded, still perplexed. I don't have any family either. No blood relatives. I slowly told her about my past, that I was raised in a single-parent household just like her now, that my mom overworked herself just like her, and that she passed away right after I got a job. I told her everything.
Oh my.
The story I told about my mom must have overlapped with her own circumstances. She was shocked. I continued speaking. I'll be honest, your reputation around here is terrible right now. But these kind people who worry about a miserable guy like me, if you talk to them properly, they'll understand. So please come to my place without worrying about anything. Quit your job when the time is right. I'm single, and my hobbies of driving and touring don't cost much, so I have a decent amount saved up. Don't let your daughter go through what I did. Remembering my mom, I teared up without meaning to. After hesitating so much, seeing my tears made her accept my proposal. It's a bit embarrassing. Well, anyway, a few days later we immediately started preparing to move in together. By the way, I greeted her daughter then too. I was more nervous than when I proposed to her. Her name is Lily. Lily, nice to meet you. If you ever have any troubles from now on, let me know.
Troubles? Then put away all this luggage. Lily is already tired. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm glad you're so energetic. And so the move went smoothly and she quit her job. Apparently they said this and that to her as if it were only natural, but she ignored it all, saying she was quitting. Soon after, she started a part-time job wearing the clothes I got for her. Why not rest a bit more? You're probably not fully recovered yet. When she suddenly told me she passed the interview for the part-time job, I timidly expressed my concern. She laughed a bit, seeming to find my behavior funny.
Relying on others completely just doesn't suit me. But I'm truly grateful to you, Nathan.
After that, she started doing housework too, saying she felt bad. It's pretty helpful for me, but I'm constantly worried she might be overdoing it again. Some time passed like that, and the color returned to her face. No longer working full-time 5 days a week, she seems to have some breathing room, and her daughter is overjoyed to have more attention.
Lily is happy that mommy is smiling. Oh my, you're saying such sweet things.
The mother gently smiling, the daughter laughing without a care. This is what a family is like, huh? The moment I absent-mindedly thought that, I remembered that she was totally my type. Once I remembered, I couldn't help but be conscious of it. To think my type of woman is living under the same roof. On the other hand, I recently realized she's conscious of me too. What made me realize it was really trivial and cliche, like how the ketchup on the omurice was a heart for only me, or how she'd somehow get outly close. She'd also say and do things as if to probe my feelings.
Nathan, don't you want a girlfriend or anything? We're close in age, so how about it? Just kidding.
I'm sure she feels indebted to me, and that debt turned into fondness for me. But when I invited her into my home, I said I wouldn't do anything weird or have impure farts. Is it okay to go back on my word so easily just because it's mutual? The moment I thought that, I decided I wouldn't confess to her myself. But that resolve was shattered in an instant by a certain event.
Hey, Daddy.
Lily called me daddy. I'm sure she doesn't have any memories of her real father, but I hurriedly tried to correct her.
Then what are you?
I got tongue-tied and lost my balance in my panic. Ivy grabbed my hand to support me, but she was gazing at my hand with slightly flushed cheeks. Could it be? Is it okay for me to tell her? Does she feel the same way? That night, I confessed, I'm a simple guy. Go ahead and laugh. Hey, about what happened earlier. Lily needs a father too, right?
Yeah.
The tension was palpable. If you're okay with me, I'll be her father. Or rather, I want to be her father. Jeez, whatever. Ivy, will you go out with me with the intention of getting married? The marriage can wait until you feel ready, but it was so embarrassing that I turned away. But I felt a warm weight on my back. She hugged me from behind, a bit hesitantly. Ivy,
I'm so happy. I look forward to our future together. I've liked you ever since you helped us back then.
I turned to face her, and in contrast to her reserved hug, I embraced her tightly, as if to blow away that hesitation. About a year later, Ivy and I had a small wedding ceremony. Neither of us have parents, and we have a daughter now, but it was a good memory. From now on, I want to build a peaceful, happy, secure family. By the way, I asked Lily to call me daddy after all, and she does. We finished the adoption paperwork too, so now she's my family. All right, when I invited the two of them to live with me, I had already told the neighbors about Ivy's circumstances. Everyone sympathized with Ivy, showed understanding, and of course let bygones be bygones. On top of that, they actively reached out to Ivy and worried about her just as much as they did for me. So when they heard we tied the knot, everyone who knew both mine and Ivy's backgrounds cried their eyes out as they congratulated us.
At first, I was shocked you were gonna live with that insurance lady. But thanks to Nathan explaining her situation, I didn't have to keep misunderstanding Ivy. You're both still young, but you've been through so much. Be as happy as you can from now on. You're a perfect match. A handsome man and a beautiful woman.
Ivy aside, I'm not handsome. Uncle, Auntie, why are you all crying? My daughter's puzzled voice was funny too. And we got so many presents from the neighbors, our room was nearly buried in them. As for that insurance company, the neighborhood network in this town fanned the flames. The power of word of mouth is scary. Bad reviews spread in the blink of an eye, and that small company quickly fell into the red. It's probably only a matter of time before they go under. But that's not our concern anymore. After all, the only thing waiting for us now is a life where we can be happy. Hey, we're leaving now.
Okay, wait for me, Daddy. Honey, you're forgetting something.
But what?
This.
Ivy gave me a light kiss. We're going out together today, so we don't need a see you later kiss.
What's the big deal? It's not like we'll run out. No fair, Mommy. Lily wants to kiss Daddy too.
Oh, Lily, you'll give Daddy a kiss too. I'm so happy. A lot happened, but in the end I was able to get my ideal family. I couldn't be happier.